Welcome to the Tug of Heart podcast on Strong Island Radio. This is the place where we dig deep into the heart to rise in love. So let's join good friends Lori and Marianne as they discuss understanding and living from the heart.
Hello and welcome to our little brief. You're here with Marianne. Hi, Marianne.
Hi, Lori.
And me. We're just kind of pushing on this idea of the heartfelt experience. To begin with, Marianne, if you had to bullet point somewhere between 1 and 3 things you hope we covered, or in our last discussion, what would they be? Just any takeaway that you would want to stress.
Well, I think it's first the internal recognition of when a call to a quest arises, and especially the quest of moving into the larger picture.
Right.
And it is an internal recognition that can be sparked by something controversial, or it could be sparked by fear or disgust or love or anything that creates this movement inside. So that would be number 1, this recognition of that movement.
Right.
And then 2 is the willingness to go into it very, very authentically. So this idea of a curious heart sort of leads the way, and respect for the process that we've spoken about. Even though there's been this, according to your formula, which I love, Lori, right?
It's your formula. I just put words to it.
It's curiosity, right? With deep respect and disruption, like that really kind of
That's
these
what you
elements.
spelled out for us, I felt like. I think it
such
was
great
accurate,
listening.
right?
I just love it, and to pull it and
I wanted to
put it
ask
there.
you a quick question. So we're coming back actually talking about the heartfelt experience and how we open ourselves up to this type of heart feeling and knowing of a thing, creation in nature. It could even be something that man has created. When you're looking at a lot of this, actually, now that I think about it, sounds a whole lot like aesthetics, right? How to appreciate art, and it's that experience and being open to art that's not from your culture.
Yes.
and that stretch, and I think that's where we see a lot of kind of like a trial run, a lot of opportunity to practice in art and literature, because we get to experience things unfamiliar to us in an open but also private way.
Yes.
If we read a book about a different culture and what's happening, and if you've ever gone pretty far in a book, did you ever read Poisonwood Bible?
No.
So it takes place in Africa, but when you're reading it, there's not a judgment about anything because you're in it. You join them in it.
Yes.
And
yes.
and what's happening is just happening. And it's actually one of very few books where I don't feel like there's necessarily a antagonist apart from limitations of each person's self. I can't believe I'm saying this because this book has got to be 20-some years old. But I when I'm with you, I'm able to remember these crazy things, right? But anyways, so you were talking about this willingness to enter authentically and to have respect for the process. So I wanted to ask you a question about that. Would I be showing a willingness to enter authentically, to approach something I want to learn more about, if my authenticity is reluctance? Is that okay?
If you're reluctant to look at
I'm
it?
reluctantly observing something, but that's so that I take a step is the willingness. So I've satisfied that still, and then the authentic is, this is the state I come in. So do you think that?
I think you have to start exactly where you are.
I love
and
that. Okay.
Many, so many of the roles in my life have had the qualifier of reluctant before.
Well, I always say we're the
reluctant
you
hero.
see the test they do, like you put a little bit of
I don't want to do it.
in the labs they put something that is foreign to we'll say the little mice, the Miss Frisbee and the rats of Nim or something. And there's always the one brave one they push forward to
Yep.
check it out. I've seen you be pushed many times, or I've
Yes.
seen nobody willing to take a step, and you're like, fine,
I've got to.
I'll be the good guy. I'll be the
Right.
hero. I'll be the bad guy. But it's you don't even get to choose how you appear while you're taking the step, which I think is a big deal because I think a lot of times today we hesitate to take steps because we could be doing the most pure, beautiful, open or opening act of ourselves to open ourselves to being less in a fixed state or of prejudice or blockage or whatever. But to do that requires calling it what it is. You get bashed. Marianne, how do we do this?
Well, I think that,
If everybody hates Wasp, and I'm like, well, I'm going to find out more.
well, I think for me, it starts with a good heart-to-heart with myself.
Huh.
Because this heart correspondence, right? This conversation that can happen within. If we can access the presence of our heart-centered self and respond to that part that's reluctant. Why are we reluctant? It's what you had said on our last show. It's always goes back to fear. So it's a part of us that is scared.
What did you say about fear is a side of love? Didn't you
Yes,
say-
there is. I feel like
I
fear.
struggled with it for a couple of years since you said it. I'm sorry to interrupt,
Fear,
but
I find, is very connected to love.
because people will say it's the opposite. Do you remember a
Right.
few years back we had that
It was
discussion,
like-
and I couldn't make the shift at the time.
Right. And I do think that the third factor is faith that helps us to reconcile the divide between love and fear. But it is whatever we love, we also carry a fear of losing, right? That just is the nature. And it's our faith that makes it somewhat tolerable.
Right. One of the things you said the last show that I didn't, I wanted to just revisit for a minute because I had wrote these notes and then I saw the time a little bit after, but you had talked about this mutual dependence, and then from there you went on about seeing the fig as it is meant to be, and that's in a way that you move away from that developed bias and hate that you had for the Wasp.
Yes.
And you said it's by trying to understand the Wasp. So I have two questions about this, because you also said that it leads to an appreciation for the Wasp. My first question is if understanding can kind of release people from bias or a heart, okay, or us from being stuck in a bias, then is bias misunderstanding?
I think it is
So
in part misunderstanding.
as long as it's not, I think it can be misunderstanding, but once you get a glimpse, and you will, that there is an alternative and you choose it, then it is a different type of situation, right?
It becomes
There has to be like an innocence almost in the misunderstanding.
right. It's there is a lack of awareness as to when and how this was created.
Right.
The bias. That's usually what happens, right? It kind of goes unconscious. And it takes a little bit of digging to begin to uncover the roots. And where was this planted? How did this get here? And why am I carrying such a strong and fearful reaction? So as we come to understand, it's like the book you were talking about, as we enter into the life of the wasp.
Oh, it's story.
It
Yes,
is, and our
Marianne.
imagination gets very activated, and we understand in a deeper, not just a simplistic way. We understand.
And understanding, I want to add, is something that true understanding is to me, I get the sense with understanding that it's a little bit irreversible. When you truly know, not think, not belief, not certain, but a knowing, that cannot be dismantled so easily. And I think you become stronger and more confident in what you know than you could ever be in what you believe before knowing.
And understanding takes work.
Oh my gosh.
So
yes.
to me, I've always translated, love thy neighbor as love your enemy, as understand your enemy, understand your neighbor. That takes effort to understand. It is not a simple, quick fix.
And it's a choice, I think, you have to make over and over.
Oh, you do. You absolutely have to choose to go down the path.
I love this. And I like actually even the Wasp, only if only because it gives us a safe
Way to talk about it, right?
Yes, it just gives us like this safe thing that has presented itself to you. The other thing you had said was that you learned to have an appreciation for the Wasp. I just wanted to add to that like when we say like an appreciation for something, it's a value. Mm-hmm. And so does the Wasp have a value to you now that is not diminished because of what it has to do with your fig now?
The Wasp has a tremendous value even outside of the fig.
Right.
In the web of life, in the interconnected. And look, as part of the way that I go on quests is anybody who's in my path when I'm on a quest, I am desperately seeking their input. So I ask, did you like
as you
wasps?
revealed to us going through the daughters.
Right. And did you like wasps? What do you feel about wasps? And everybody I asked was like, ew. I'm like, why do we all hate wasps? Right. And it opens the conversation that we talk so much about, this dedicated sense of talking and connecting with others and beginning to unveil and unpack some of the truths that we otherwise don't think about.
I want to point out that in conversation, we should just note that the Wasp and the fig were a source of revelation for you. It is passed on conversationally. So people need to acknowledge that a conversation is probably the richest source of revelation we have. Because when we say revelation, first of all, people that are like, I don't go to school where you go to school. I don't go to church where you go to church. I don't go to the parks you do. I don't go hold signs where you do. Gone. Mm-hmm. Because we're talking about revelation. But what I'm talking about is just something revealing itself for what it is to be. Nothing else. So conversationally, we can... It's such an efficient way to pass along a revelation that I've had or that you've had it's an opportunity to share that aha moment and make it available to somebody else's heart who was not there. But it's as true and the understanding can become as permanent conversationally. And that's one of the things that we've talked about is a dedicated conversation, which means we return to it. Regardless of how we finished the last time, our next chance, we continue from that spot because there's more to be revealed to one another and through one another.
Really key, Lori. I feel like that is tremendous, this idea of the start and not prematurely ending the conversation, because I could have gathered with my information about, do you believe that a fig is actually pollinated by a wasp and she lays her eggs. They're disgusting. Let's go chop down all the fig
Right.
trees in the world.
Absolutely.
We cannot have this go on anymore. No one should be eating figs. That is a premature ending of understanding.
It's tragic, and
and it's tragic.
absolutely tragic. We talked about this. I can't remember the name, but when we were talking about the environment, and one of the things is this is where, without the heart, I had said you lose context. And remember, the awfulest analogy I made was, "I love your blue eyes. You pluck one out and give it to me," and it's out of context.
Right.
So if you
Right.
don't contextually look at the wasp and the fig, this is what we do: we unroot it. It
Right.
doesn't belong here
And-
because it's other.
And the context is we are all interconnected.
Which
this
is-
is a giant
Right.
oneness of natural, supernatural woven together.
Right. Which also means when we have, I guess what we'll call for at least the next few minutes, this encounter, okay?
Yes.
It can have like an immediate effect on us. But there's also, if sometimes we just have a curiosity and we mark it. You and I say a lot, mark that. And that's that cold planting that you plant in a colder time. Something about it's like, let me just put that in my heart, and something else you're going to come along will be its fertilizer, its light, and it can grow. We don't have to say, if it does not disclose in this instant what it is, its nature to me, because its nature may be the veil hiding its nature from you, may be a series of other quests that this is just behind. But
Yes.
you've come across it early. But what you don't want to do is respond prematurely and mistakenly at best. The other thing is, when we learn anything about something in nature, even as small as like a wasp, a fig, a flower, you have to realize in the same way that we say about humans, any improvement I make, true improvement I make on myself that is good. So now we're talking about only good and something not good, one that does not facilitate what we're talking about. So we've eliminated the bad, right? Because bad just means unknown for now. But any change that I make to myself that is good, it's a good move for all of humanity. In the same way, any understanding you grasp of the smallest, these wasps are teeny. This is not a bee. If anybody's picturing not a bumblebee, not a regular
hornet,
bee, not a
no
hornet, you're
a little
picturing
baby,
something too
teeny.
big. It's very, very small. What that shows you and teaches you of itself, what it reveals, it also reveals just a bit more about the wholeness of all. And we have to give it that value, which is that appreciation that it signifies more. And to better know the wasp is to better know life. Seriously. It sounds it can
agree completely.
If it sounds hokey, I want to say that
No.
it's only because we're not used to talking like that, and we should be. The other thing is that when you can't immediately see it, it's enough to have seen different times in your life where something you came to understand it later. My son swore he would never love girls more than Jackie
right.
Chan.
Yes.
I tried to convince him at a young age, like, oh,
You will.
believe you me. And he's like, absolutely not. I know. I'm certain. That's certain. But with experience of me seeing repetition of certain things playing out, I can tell him in a pretty sure way about that. He kind of trusted me in that. And the thing that I want to say about that is that what he trusts about it is that I've been here a while longer. And this is where we give a value to certain authorities in our life. And this doesn't mean you have to misappropriate who your authorities are. But when people have proven themselves, or you trust them, they've been right enough times, or because of a filial connection or whatever, they get that until they prove otherwise.
Yes.
In that moment, we need to know that being exceeds knowing until that knowing shows itself to us. And so just that the wasp is, it exceeds what you don't yet know about it. And you have to give it that credit ahead of time.
That's your respect that
That's
you
the
talk
respect,
about
because you
in the
can't
formula.
enter into it without that. And then when you do that, then it's able to give you this appearance or an idea, a sense of what it is. We had also hinted on in our previous talk, like starting where you are. The only thing I would say to expand on that is one of the most disappointing things for me because of ego and all this, whatever little darkness is in me, which I accept because you start where you are, hopefully a little less now than when I first began this, is that we have to start where we are and sadly not even where we want to be. This is a big one, Marianne, and I don't even know exactly how to expand on it except to say that you have to be in your true starting point to be relational with anything. So I can't pretend to be like another person, another crowd, another knowing. You can't just to kind of fit in or anything. You have to start where you are, because a lot of times I want to be a sage. Why not? Why not? Deep down, I know I want good, but I want good. That's what I want. But I'm also where I'm at, and things don't come without the work and the yes after yes after yes, which leads to that revealing, and that's what leads to further revealing. So if we ever suspect that other people are seeing something that we're not. And nobody's really ahead of anybody, just different. So some people have had certain things revealed while I've had the other side of it revealed. But we also have to have a comfort in that, because a lot of times we can be quick to judge what people want to reveal about themselves because it hasn't yet been revealed to us. Can you fix what I just said, Marianne?
Well,
I'm
it
confusing
kind of
myself,
goes
but-
to me back to when I was going through my daughters on the meaning of it.
Yes!
And Lily had said, sometimes the sting is what brings the most delicious fruit. And the sting of not being who I think I am.
Oh, I
like,
love
I am
that.
such a loving, good person. How can I hate a wasp?
That's not me. That's just not me. Mm-hmm.
The sting of that.
I love
if
that.
we really stay with that and move through it, the satisfaction of arriving at a transformation of that place is so much more satisfying than not having to be in the truth of that. So that's one thought I have on it. And the other is, there is a place that we, throughout both seasons, we are in this practice of getting to, which is developing a relationship with our own heart.
Absolutely.
Where our heart holds a certain authority that is completely compassionate with us. So I simultaneously have the part of myself that is confused, disgusted, unsure of what this all means. And I have my heart authority that is delighted that I'm about to embark on this wonderment, this journey that is going to lead to something, some revelation. The heart knows.
It does.
The heart does.
It does.
And my heart was very supportive. I felt it. I felt it simultaneous in the background saying, follow this. Keep following it. This is important. Trust it.
I believe
Keep
that
going.
because that you even shared it to me implied instantly, which is why I texted you after about my little story about Wild Mary.
Yes, yes.
But it implies that you're not shunning it because you were able to talk about it, so it's not
Yes, I'm
taboo.
not
When it's taboo,
ashamed.
so you're not saying I'm not. It's so foul that I'm not going to repeat it. You're not there, so that you're still somewhat open. You only ever need that crack, that pin of light you spoke about before.
Yes.
as possibility. And as long as you haven't let go of the rights to possibility, that lesson is still there for you and awaits you. I also wanted to add what you were saying about Lily, because Lily is so much in my heart. She's a mini Marianne, and just she's a little genius too, actually. But the sting of the delicious fruit, I wasn't thinking about it at all the way you just framed it for me, that it's acknowledging ourself. But one of the things that we have to do to be able to reach these encounters and let them speak for themselves, not infusing us or speaking over it, is if we can't hear it, there's like, what is this? I still can't see it. It's blurred. It's not making sense. Then you have to step back and you have to, instead of thinking about what it is doing wrong that is not your language, you have to instead say, I have to think about me, and I have to think about where I am. And then I have to think about who I am. And then am I a person capable of listening to this right now, to whatever it says, anything it wants to reveal about itself. And then you have to also ask yourself, if you still can't quite reach that place, what do you really know? Really know. Not, what do you know about the wasp, okay? Not what you want it to be. Not what you think you know, not what you hope it was, wish it was, what you're afraid about. Not what you value in it in the way you presently understand it, but what do you truly know? And if it's nothing, then shh and listen. You can also ask, does what you know match the rest of you, which is how we interact? Because sometimes we know, but I've said this before, habits die hard, Marianne.
Absolutely.
My heart often shifts on things and my behaviors stay in place because of that habit.
Yes.
I've told you this before, and this includes habitual thinking first, and then the habits of our body. I get it. I want to be so healthy and strong, but you still continue to do what you do. So that's another inner question for your heart. Does what I know match the rest of me? And if not, in the same way we would wait for revelation of a thing about itself, you need to be open in an internal way to allowing your heart's answer to rise, which can be a sting or something beautiful, a little of both. But it is that... there was last season, I would not have been able to say that you could have a pain and aversion and appreciation together, but you had said about the heart can hold both. And in this way, I think the heart can hold both.
Absolutely.
Right? Where it stings, but that sting opens you to it. One of the things I thought about with the fig also, this just made me think of it now, the fig is a womb. And you had talked about surrogacy, which I feel like it is you. And one of the things, this makes me like very emotional, because I feel like this is profoundly and in a very sacred way one of your gifts. I think my judgment of the whole wasp-fig interaction would be gross. The fig is eating wasps and wants me to eat wasps. But when I thought about it and I dug deeper, because I had my own feelings about it. Not the same as you. Mine are ideas, you know.
Yes.
When I had to process it over and over, and I actually ended up looking quite a lot, extensively about the fig and the wasp. This I didn't learn from it, but I learned this just from my own contemplation. We have to remember that what we're seeing is not primordial. It's not savage. And the wasp has found a place that the fig has agreed to because it has an opening, okay, to let it in. So the wasp is not violating by entering. The other thing is the fig breaks down the wasp, but I don't know why I could not get this until it hurt me to get. The fig isn't breaking down the wasp because it's taking it in. The mom is feeding itself to the babies, Marianne. And it's just something that I was...
So mutual,
but it's
right?
something that I was overlooking. And because I kept seeing it as the fig is absorbing it, the fig is absorbing it. But the fig had been surviving all along on water and oxygen and sunlight, same as it's ever been. It only facilitates that. And I feel like that's what you do also. It facilitates this offering that the mom wants to give the child. I want to point out, this is just a gift of yours.
Oh,
And
Lord.
I had to come to it also in that, I thought of it now that you were saying about Lily, that kind of painful place where I only saw what the fig was doing to the wasp. I was like, it's just making that space to hold what the mom wants to give to her children. And in this way, you had just said transformation, the mom enters the children and lives on. It's none of this is being segregated. Part for the fig takes its price, its finder's fee, nothing like that. It all goes and they leave.
They do.
And
They do.
it allows for this space. That's all I want to say about it. Because
Well, now my mind is just blown because I am totally.
But that's where it took me because my aversion was to
Wow.
that it felt like I was picturing like a Venus flytrap. I was picturing the fig as
Yeah.
that, and I was thinking, why do I accept it with this? Before I realized, no, it's letting the mom have a womb that it does not have otherwise.
No, well, you just sharing that. I think my identification, right, was initially more with the fig, and especially the fig as a womb, as a surrogate. But I think this story came to me because it is much more about motherhood.
It's about you. It's
And
always
it's
about
about
you.
single motherhood, which
Finds its way back to you
it does, Lori.
repeatedly.
It does. And her breaking down so that she becomes part of her children. Oh my gosh, that is hitting my heart very strong.
It is with me
and
too.
then they go. There is an exit because by her
She
entering,
goes with
she's
them,
left
but
an
she,
exit.
but she goes with them.
Right.
Because I kept picturing like the figs consuming. No, it's not. It's facilitating.
Yes,
And I
it's
think
beautiful.
we need to see that sacrifice happening in that for what it is, and that it makes the space. And anytime you have space that you set aside for something specific, and only for that, that is the definition of sacred and holy. It's set apart.
Absolutely.
And I just think that we should at least give it that, because this is where we can start to go a little beyond just what it's first telling you, because you generously, as you always do, share this with me. You could have worked it out and come up with so many things, but you're like, take apart, Lori, do it.
Please
And
help
I
me.
like that. The
Tell
other thing
me.
I wanted to
that
tell
was
you,
a beautiful facet. Oh my gosh!
the one other thing I wanted to tell you when you
I
had
think
said
I have
about
to get a tattoo.
I
of
thought of this.
The wasp with the crown.
I had thought if you ever got one, you would. One
That
other thing
is
about the
crazy.
wasp sting that this made me realize, because your whole aversion began, this is going to make me cry, but I'll cry through it because I want to share this with you. Because this all began when you were a child. You were stung by a wasp.
Yes.
And I was thinking, you were able to give this sharing and this reciprocity to this wasp that first stung you with a child and marked this path for you, what was going to be revealed to you down the road, in this way that that wasp that stung you lost its life, so it never would find the fig. And I had told Steve in the middle of the night, he's like, "Are you talking crazy? Go to bed." But what I had said was, what if we hurt when a wasp or bee stings us because that's the only pain the world's going to know, that they've given up being a mom. And we complain of the smallest sting or big sting, even if it's an allergic reaction. What if this is us participating in the mourning that is appropriate to who that wasp is and what it is in its nature? And I feel like because it's you, I can't say I would say this for everybody, but because of you, it was marked. And that's how you had that feeling. Things can change anytime we decide to kind of fall in line with the nature of things. Meaning can be flipped from one side to the other.
Truly.
folded over, and what is pain becomes revelation, and what is revelation becomes a better understanding of pain, which pushes forward. But I think your story began when you were a little girl and you got stung.
Yeah.
I just
no,
want to
and
add that.
No, but I also think the piece that you bring to that is that the sting, and again, even metaphorically, when we are stung by others, perhaps we unknowingly are
Yes.
sharing in a grief.
Yes,
That
that's-
was a loss, a death, a something that was sacrificed in them that allows
They're
this
just saying in the most awkward and not yet understood way for them. They're saying, "Will you hurt with me for just a second?" And
Right.
sometimes people do hurt, and we want to always facilitate growth and healing and teaching, but it begins by also hearing all kinds of stings and feeling all kinds of stings and seeing all kinds of stings for what they are. And you had said that last time. And not what we want it to be. They're just bad.
Yeah.
Because
Disgusting,
every
those
action is
kinds of words.
communication.
Right.
I think we...
Wow, that's a lot.
I mean, who knows? Where do we go from here? We will find out.
Yes.
Thank you for staying with us. If you have, for the brief, you can like and share our little podcast. You can check in with your thoughts on our Facebook page, and also you can like and share Strong Island Radio. We're here with Bobby, our producer. Marianne, thank you.
Oh, this was
what a
very,
beautiful
very
introduction to
complete.
this season, and I have a feeling that this will pop up a little bit more for us. But I'm really pleased with your story. Thanks too for just
Oh my
sharing
gosh.
sharing
and
that
thank you. That
and
just
allowing
added
us
a
to
whole
participate.
other beautiful understanding for me.
So until next time,
Appreciate it.
farewell and do well.